we started going to expos and events, and had a little booth and talked to people, which was hard because people at the time didn't care or didn't understand. I didn't know what I was doing, but I know I had to figure it out, and I knew I could figure it out, but it just took a lot of work.
From RISEHI, this is Why Not Me, a show about Kama'aina creators, entrepreneurs, and community leaders. Behind-the-scenes stories of how they got to where they are and the valuable lessons they learned along the way. I'm your host, Gabe Ame, and in this episode, we sit down with Kapu Gaison, founder and race director of the Makahiki Challenge. Kapu shares how he came up with the initial idea to create the very first obstacle course race in Hawaii, as well as the challenges he had to overcome to make his vision into a reality. Kapu Gaison, what's up, brother? Welcome to Why Not Me?
Thanks for having me on.
So Kapu, I've known you for almost 10 years now. Right around the time you started this cool event called the Makahiki Challenge. So for those who don't know what Makahiki Challenge is, why don't you explain it to everyone?
Of course, yeah. So Makahiki Challenge is Hawaii's first 5K obstacle mud run. We started in 2012, and we grew to a new Keiki event as well. So we have Keiki MC, which is the Keiki Makahiki Challenge. We do it every year now during the Makahiki season at Kualo Ranch, and this year will be our 10th anniversary.
Big time, man. I remember when you first started it, it was like all the challenges and the hurdles and the problems, but then the success and the ups and downs. So we're going to go through that, but just to kind of give people a scale of how many people participate every season, what's the numbers look like?
Well, we've kind of fluctuated over the years. We started off, with maybe 800 or so the first year. And then every year since then, or for the next 7 years, we kind of grew by a few hundred. So we worked our way up to close to 3,000.
Take us back to 2000, 10, 11, 12, right before this started. And if I recall, you were out of college, you came home from Chapman University, came back to Hawaii, and you thought you were going to be a banker. You thought you were going to be in the mortgage profession, working at a big bank, right?
Studied my undergraduate degrees in entrepreneurship, and I went straight into my MBA from there. So I kind of was preparing myself with the resources and tools to start a business at some point. I just didn't know what it would be. But right out of school, I didn't feel, I guess I didn't go straight into a business, went into banking and finance and lending. I was always trying to figure out a way to start a business while working to supplement my income. I didn't want to put everything, on the line until I felt like it was a good idea. So that's what I did. I started Makahiki Challenge while I was working at Bank of Hawaii. As that grew, I eventually left the bank.
Why don't you share the genesis of how did you even come up with the idea? Because back then there weren't really any these obstacle course races. Right now you see them all the time, but back then in Hawaii, I don't even think there was any, right?
Yeah, no, we were the first obstacle course race here. I mean, I just saw the opportunity. I was living in California for a while, and I was competing in a bunch of different obstacle course races. And besides the competitive aspect, people, they stayed afterwards. They came with a bunch of friends. They had some beers, and they hung out. And at normal races, you go and you leave, and there's not really that after party kind of thing. So I figured it could only get better in Hawaii with the view, with the people, with the scenery. I felt like it had to happen. So I started reaching out to some of the major obstacle course racing companies, asking to, start an event here for them. And they all kind of denied it or just didn't respond. So that didn't work out. And then I just decided, after talking to my friends who ended up being my core team, I shared the idea and pitched it to them. They were stoked. And we just decided, let's just do it and we'll figure it out as we go along. And that's what we did.
The original idea wasn't just starting from scratch. Your original idea was to work for another organization to get it going. Why is that?
Well, I didn't think that this was going to be my big idea where I would pursue it full time. I thought it'd be something, that'd just be a side thing, and it'd help me learn, help me make a little bit of money. I just thought it'd be fun, and it ended up being a lot more than that.
Walk us through the steps of how did that first year of planning and what, getting to that first race.
Yeah, so we would just, get pupus and beers and go to my friend's house in Papukolea, and we would talk story about it and brainstorm, and we'd just talk about the course, the obstacles we'd want, the name of the event. We would talk about the after party, what beers people would want to drink, who we could reach out to, and then we started honing it in. And then once we came up with the name Makahiki Challenge, we found the venue, we made a date, and then that's when everything started rolling.
And this is 2012, and you named it Makahiki Challenge, right? So why Makahiki Challenge?
Yeah. So Makahiki is a Hawaiian season. It's typically about 4 months. It starts with the rising of the Pleiades constellation at sunset, and it was a time where there was a kapu on war. Nobody could go to war. We stopped fishing and farming, and we let our resources replenish. We did competitive games like ulumaika, hakamoa, those types of things. So it was a very important time to the Hawaiians. It's a very big deal, and it's a very big season. And Makahiki Challenge is a part of that modern day season. And that's sort of what we've taken upon ourselves with this event and other events, is to kind of share Makahiki a little bit more and make it a thing that people talk about, make it a thing that people celebrate.
So going back to your first event, what were your feelings like when you actually officially launched a website and you said, okay, time to register?
You run the numbers for people who are going to attend, and you're like, yeah, if I get 10,000 people, and then it's going to be fine. And then, nobody's registering. So how would anybody register? Nobody knows, right? So you don't just make a website and hope that people find it. And that's kind of what you sort of think, but you got to do the legwork. So what we ended up doing was, there was 5 of us on our team. Each of us had to register 20 friends and family members.
Yep. You're like board members, and you gotta rally.
Yeah. So that's what we did. Everybody had to find 20 people. That's how we got our first 100, and then we started going to expos and events, and had a little booth and talked to people, which was hard because people at the time didn't care or didn't understand. It was humbling, but it's just, it's just one of those things you have to do.
When you verbalize it a lot of times and it's brand new, you got to understand that, it's your baby, right? And other people, they're not going to see that same vision until you actually do that first event or thing. You put it out there where they can actually see it and they can be like, oh, wow, this is pretty cool. So it's always tough. So I can imagine you being at expos trying to pitch this, and people are like, don't bother me, right?
Yeah, just, walking by with a flyer and trying to stop people to tell them about it. But it helped us learn too, because we had to, come up with the key points to why people would want to stop by or why they would come to the event. And we ended up understanding more about our clients that way, about the people that come to the event, more about our runners and our participants.
It's not just like a race where you can just give people, slap up people like a electronic bracelet for timing purposes and let them run. You actually have to build obstacles, which that's a whole nother challenge as it is. So tell me about that process and how did you get that done?
Yeah, honestly, that whole year, or the time leading up, maybe it was 4 or 5 months leading up to that event, was probably the most stressful time of my life. I didn't know what I was doing, but I know I had to figure it out. And I knew I could figure it out, but it just took a lot of work. I think at the time I was in auto lending. So I was doing car loans. I remember being on the phone with the dealers and then my phone ringing because somebody was delivering, topsoil or gravel, or I don't know what, I think I had a huge semi full of tires, and the guy was stuck on the road in Ka'ava. And I was like, my boss at the time was like, can I take 2 hours? I'll be right back. And it was just weird because it was oh no, this is all crashing together at the same time. I thought I could keep it separate, but it started picking up. But I mean, that was just one of the little things that happened that, was stressful leading up to the event. And one of the things that I learned from, like when you're planning an event, there's so many things that happen that can happen, and you just have to prepare for the worst all the time.
So just to give people a context, how old were you when the first year?
25.
Yeah. So you're still kind of green. You're still like, this is first time taking on this big adventure. The first day, here's the first day of race day, right? Give us an example of what went wrong that day?
Four of us that slept at the ranch, we didn't sleep because we were still putting out cones for the course. We were still flagging things. We were putting up parking signs. The whole week was really difficult because there was a flash flood. Luckily, the day of the event, it didn't rain. We were so tired because we didn't sleep. And the last thing that we had to do was fill up the water trucks. And the ground was so wet from the entire week that the water truck kept sliding down the hill. And this was like right before the start of the race. So we were like freaking out. And eventually we built like a plywood road. And then, I heard on the radio, the runners are going, the slide's working, and you're like, oh my God, thank God. And that was super stressful, but like liberating once it finished. Then when people started finishing the event, coming through the finish line laughing, getting their medal on their shirt, it was like, it just made everything fall into place, and it felt good. I don't think you were there the first year, but the first year just had a really awesome feeling that, it felt like people were part of this like little community that never existed.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're all muddy. We all just ran and worked out. We're drinking beer, which at the time was Primo. And we're dancing to music in this beautiful space. So I think that just got us hooked. People were excited about it. And just because it was, more local and more of a grassroots event, that just felt authentic. It was authentic. And I think that's what allowed us to continue to grow.
So for you, I guess, what kind of advice would you give someone who creating an event for the first time, or starting a business or a nonprofit? What kind of advice would you give them ahead of time?
I feel like this is the advice I give myself all the time that I don't listen to, that I should listen to. And it's also the name of the horse I would have if I had a racehorse. And it's time is of the essence. If I would do things now, I would be so much more prepared. And if I had not, I don't want to say jump the gun, but sometimes you just let things sit, and you get close to making a decision and you don't make a decision. And I think if you can make that decision right away, you have more time to improve upon it or change direction, change course. So for me, I would be better off today if I had done everything sooner.
Once you kind of get something going and you feel so uncomfortable, but you learn that skill set and you get it going, it helps build that confidence where it's like, okay, I can do something, I could do the next one, and I know you have that confidence with doing events now.
One of the things I say is that you don't have to wait till everything's perfect, because, sometimes you kind of think that you're going to get everything just like at the highest caliber. And sometimes that's just too much money, or that's a waste. And sometimes you just got to start at the bare minimum, see if it works, see if you're good at it, see if people like it, and then you can go from there.
And this is this is kind of your main source of income to kind of keep you going, right? So it goes something to say about, for you, what is happiness and what does success mean to you?
I think for me right now, I'm interested in experiences and pursuing the things that I enjoy. So that has been over the last 5 years or so, competing in ninja competitions. I'm usually training for competition, traveling for them. But that's kind of the lifestyle that I was trying to pursue from the beginning of creating Makahiki Challenge, was to live in two places and to go back and forth. Success to me is being able to do those things. I definitely have changed what was important to me over the last 10 years. And I found that I can live off a lot less than I thought. And I found that having more free time is more valuable to me than most things. Whereas if I was still at the bank, I would be making a lot more money, but I would be stuck in one spot.
Totally. And I think that's something important for those in high school and college. They always, it's easy to have this preconceived notion of what success is because, you look at other people and they're working 40 plus hours a week and maybe they're driving nice cars and they live in fancy places but you really have to evaluate what's important for you. And if you can define what your ideal lifestyle would be, then maybe you can come up with mechanisms or a business that can support that potential lifestyle. And I think you're living proof of that.
Yeah. And I think it's hard because of the way society views success, or even your family or friends. And I look at people in my MBA class and see how much money they're making. And sometimes I have to catch myself and be like, that's not what I wanted. I'm not trying to pursue that. And just, you got to remind yourself about what you want. Sometimes you're always going to keep looking to other things, but you have to bring yourself back and remind yourself and sit with yourself and write down, what it is exactly that you want.
Speaking of your goals, right? I want to go to the part of the show where we bust out one of the old Instagram posts. So why don't you explain what's going on in this scene right here?
Okay, so this is season 9, American Ninja Warrior. I finished the course this year, which was super exciting. I got to hit the buzzer, moved on to the finals, and then actually moved on to national finals after that. So I did really well that year. And, I was training for a while, and this is the first sort of like proof or justification that I was doing good. I've been kind of competing and training for the last 5 years, and I'm hoping to continue to do that.
All right, moving on to the show where it's the speed round challenge. I'm going to ask you a series of questions. First thing that pops in your head, you name it off. All right, you ready? Last book you read?
I guess I'm almost done. I'm reading *Sapiens*.
Last place you ordered takeout from?
Master and Joyce.
Favorite quarantine snack?
I've been eating a lot of cherry tomatoes and Asian pears.
Favorite song to sing in the car?
So I don't know the songs, but anything Napalapalai, even though I can't hit any of the notes.
It's all good. Last movie you watched?
I watched Good Boys.
If you could learn any new skill, it would be?
So this is where I gotta take my own advice and start learning fire knife dancing.
If you could have dinner with anyone, dead or alive, who would that person be?
Just off the top of my head, Bada is.
Okay, last question. Best piece of advice you would give someone either graduating high school or college, trying to figure it out?
I want to stick with my other advice, and time is of the essence. Do it now.
Visualizing what you want to do and actually putting it to action. So stoked for you with that, and stoked on Makahiki Challenge 10-year anniversary coming up. So hopefully everything's clear. Because when's the date? Technically the date, or it's going to be around?
We don't have a date yet. We're looking to possibly moving it back just because of this whole pandemic.
Okay, so usually it's in December or January, right?
December, second week of December. But we're still debating, and we will post that stuff on our website, makahikichallenge.com, or Instagram, Facebook, Makahiki Challenge.
Awesome, bro. Well, wishing the best for you, and looking forward to seeing what other events you're going to come up with and push out here in Hawaii.
Thanks for having me on here.
Right on, Kapu. Take it easy. Aloha.